And we're back, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in, as always. I appreciate that. Next up in my Steam list of games to review is the Banner Saga, which is sort of a choose-your-own-adventure game. At least that is what it wants to believe it is, or wants you to believe that it is. Where in this game an unlikely alliance of man and giants take on the Dredge, a race of what seems to be stone figures. Now here's the first problem with this game. Although I think that the story is great, it does feel a bit like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. And the Dredge proved not to be a very interesting race or opponent. You don't get to learn anything about them. But maybe that's the point here. It is all about the journey, not about the destination. It's all about the well-written characters in this bleak universe. But therefore, it is also hard to really care for the things that are going on and the characters involved. The big selling point of this game is, well, you can see it, the comic book style, tightly drawn graphics, and they are sublime. No discussion there. There's very little narration spoken in this game, and the rest is text-based dialogue with cardboard characters thrown into the mix, and they get recycled throughout the game, which gets quite boring after a while. So you'll be looking at the same screens most of the time. As the story progresses, you have to make some choices of which you don't know the consequences, although most choices influence only a number of things. The number of supplies that you have for your caravan, but I don't think that the supplies actually is a huge problem here in this game. It's not really management of supplies. You just have to have enough to make the next stop, basically, or the population count that can decrease or increase, but there is no real penalty of just losing people, or the amount of renown, which is the currency in this game, that you can gather or lose by making these choices. So, contrary to popular belief about this game, the choices don't really influence the overall story. The game is very much on rails, at least the story, and you don't get to choose where you will go next. Things feel very scripted, so no matter the choices that you made or the number of battles that you've won or lost, the story will continue. And for instance, you will lose that specific character because, well, the script says so, which can be infuriating, especially when you've spent a lot of your renown on that character to build it up for the next battle. Let's talk about these battles. Although the game wants you to believe it has an epic story about an ongoing war, the battles are actually nothing more than skirmishes against only a limited number of enemy units that you'll be fighting on this tile-based map. And the maps are kind of boring to look at, and the whole thing feels very restrictive because you don't get to choose which unit you will move in the battle. So there's no real flexibility there. You basically move one unit to the front. The unit behind it has little room to maneuver. It feels just very limiting, really. And when you start to attack an enemy unit, you can either choose to either break the armor of the opponent unit or do direct damage to them, which makes no sense because the basic strategy here is to basically wear down, again, their armor and then do damage to their health. Your heroes have some abilities that they can use in battle, so to tip things in your favor, like the one that will give you the option to hit multiple enemies at once during one turn, or rain down arrows on them. But it just doesn't feel like it really makes a lot of difference in the battle. There are also items that you can use on your heroes to buff their stats. But despite all this, the strategy again is very basic. You just group your units together, the tank units in front, the weaker ones, the archers, you let them hang back, and then you just try and wear down the enemy units until the last man is standing, and hopefully that's one of your units. So no real tactics, no flanking, no environmental advantages here. And when you win a battle, that will give you a little bit more renown that you can use to upgrade your heroes' abilities further and buy new items for them. So that seems to be an interesting sort of grind there. But the thing is, it's just a numbers game. You know, it's all about the amount of damage that you inflict on the enemy units. And that still feels very random. Sometimes you do just 1 damage, sometimes 3, sometimes 6, and there's no way to tell whether that is because you're using an ability or you have this item on your character. It just feels random. And ultimately, I also think that the Banner Saga overstays its welcome during its 9 to 11 hour story, as it boils down to the same thing over and over again. You get this part where, you know, you're traveling on rails. Next up, you talk to a bunch of characters, you make some choices in the text, and then you get into a fight that looks very similar to the fight that you had, and probably will look the same as the next one. So the art and the epic story of this game only goes so far to hide a very shallow and mediocre game underneath. That is my opinion about the Banner Saga. So let me know what you guys think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know. See you in the next video.